11th seed Andre Agassi. Andre Agassi, of course, in the quarterfinals, the top section of the draw looks like this. Jim Courier, Pete Sampras, and Andre Agassi, all of the USA are in there. Goran Ivanisevic is the foreigner in that section. We're in the French Championships, of course. And at the bottom section, well, that is full of unseeded players with the exception of Peter Korda. Sampras has lost only 3 points on serve in this match. And bear in mind that when he beat Andre Agassi in the final of the US Open, he lost only 17 points on his serve in that match. One break of serve so far, 4-3 Sampras serving. So it has been an outstanding serving display from Pete Sampras so far. That's his 4th point against him in the match. Love 15. Bottom section of the men's field, you've got Nicholas Kulti, Henri Lecomte, Andrei Cherkasov, none of them seeded. And then Peter Korda. Top section could be an all-American party. Michael Chang was expected to do a little better than he did in the championship, just losing to Nicholas Kulti in the third round of the championship, 8-6 in the 5th. Love 30.
Third ace for Pete Sampras. Andre Agassi has Jose Higueras looks on, the coach of Jim Courier, scouting this out. Agassi had one bad service game at 1-all. He had 3 unforced errors, and that's why Sampras is operating with this break. This is really the first time Agassi's breathed anywhere near Sampras's serve, and basically it's just that Sampras has made a couple of unforced errors in this game.
So it is Agassi who's got 2 break points. Overcast and cloudy day again today. Heavy conditions. They should favor Andre Agassi. The racket is gone. He'll have to go and change this, and he will get one serve with a brand new string job. Pete Sampras, you could hear it snap as he hit that first serve. Of course, the players are using more rackets in this French Championships. I don't remember, Mary, when the weather has been so bad so consistently at the French Championships. They probably keep records in those things. I don't know what they are for this, but there's been rain virtually every day of the French, and it has affected the players' gut string. Bruno Rebeu is in the chair. So far, he has lost a set only to Emilio Sanchez, I guess. So there's a second double fault and the break back for Agassi in the first set. No signs until the game that you just saw from Pete Sampras that he was in danger of being broken. But he has. It's 4 games all, and a familiar sight here is Andre Agassi on the stadium court. The other familiar sight is the umbrellas that are going up. It looks like this match is going to be postponed because of rain. Bruno Rebeu is asking the folks in the stadium please to settle down and to give the players a chance to get ready to continue this match. Meanwhile, Sampras walks to the side lines to close his bag so that whatever is in there does not get too wet. They're both looking at Rebeu at the moment. The umbrellas are up, but play will apparently continue. Agassi got further in this French Championships than his seeding indicated that he would. Guy Forget, remember, lost to Bart Wietz, and then Sanchez beat Wietz and Agassi beat Sanchez. 15 all in this game, and in truth, a lot of folks thought that Pete Sampras might not get this far at the French Championships. It's the furthest he's got by a long way, but he has played very consistently, very solidly. He practiced hard for this French by playing a bunch of tournaments leading up to the French Championships, and he's been very solid. 15 all.
Until this year, Pete Sampras had only won 5 matches on this slow red clay in his whole career. His match against Steve the other day, he said, was his best ever. But he's been in a funk these last 2 games. And Agassi would do well to capitalize on that. Part of the press corps here, Finn of the Times, with her covering her hair. Bud Collins, right. Jenkins of SI, Doug Smith, USA Today, and Ricky Ricardo Finn of USA Today. This is a very big match, especially for the American press. And Agassi doesn't want to lose this game from 40-15 now to 40-30, especially if it starts to rain. He wants to have some sort of a lead.
That is just long. Agassi leaves it, and it is out, and he does have the lead. 5 games to 4, first set. Agassi over Pete Sampras, both, of course, of the USA. We're in Paris. American players, Sampras and Agassi, basically the same era, same age, played against each other for a long, long time. Just same vein as Agassi and Jim Courier played the final here last year. They know each other well personally. They know each other's games well as well. But this is the French Championships, and it's Court Central.
Agassi had won the 12 of the last 15 points. Sampras had been shut down to only 3 points in the last 3 games. So he must declare himself again in this first set. I thought Agassi was looking a little edgy the first few games, but now he's settled pretty much into this match. Third double for Pete Sampras. He goes for an awful lot on the second serve.
20 years old, Washington, D.C., Bradenton, Florida, now spent most of his formative years in California, though.
His new coach, Tim Gullickson, says that his first serve will win him an awful lot of free points. That's the second of this game, in fact, his 4th ace overall. But Gullickson says plan B is that Pete has to understand his second serve is extremely more than adequate. It's a weapon. And that Pete has got to learn how to use it better.
30-15.
In the last match Sampras played against Charlie Stieb, he had so many second serve aces.
Game point Sampras. He has come out today, as we've said, serving that second serve a lot harder than you're used to seeing from Sampras. Oh, boy, it is. The thing about a serve like that is it's good on any surface, including this, what they call the slow red clay, that terre battue. And there is no slower surface than this. Five games all first set.
The last time these two played, though, a match that Agassi won at the AT&T Challenge on green clay last month, the Sampras serve was not nearly as strong. He was having some problem with his elbow. He'd had 16 aces against Jimmy Connors 2 days before he played Agassi, and then just had 6 against Andre because he wasn't able to really swing away.
Bloody Saturday saw the demise and exit of Michael Chang and Richard Kracek, who's another big server, first and second serve. Michael Stich and Stefan Edberg.
He, like Sampras, has got to get themselves fitter, because Sampras has too. He had to pull out of the Australian with arm trouble this year.
For Andre Agassi, he was born in Nevada, still lives in Las Vegas. 22 years old. 5'11", 175 for the record. Until he was 14, played with a two-handed backhand. And then gave that up because he wanted to be like the great and glorious Rod Laver. Oh, he got a little bit lucky with that. Hit the tape. Easy shot for him for the pass. But it crept over and in at a 30-15.
Pretty nice approach from Sampras, but he didn't get in tight enough. And that's what gave Agassi the chance to just hammer it home.
Don't need a two-handed backhand to hit that kind of shot. Beautifully played. Clean winner on the passing shot. Important point to it. 30 all. Nick Bollettieri, bottom left of your screen, and the middle right of your screen, Gil Reyes, who's his trainer, and then Bill Shelton is Agassi's agent with a cap. Game point for Agassi. Pete Sampras may feel kind of lonely out there being the one-handed backhand player when you look at the players left in this championship. Courier, Ivanisevic, Agassi, the man he's playing now, Nicholas Kurti, Cherkasov, all two-handers. Wonder if he ever wonders if he should have stuck with it too. Probably not.
I wouldn't think so. God, Pete Sampras' backhand is one of my favorite shots in the entire men's game. It's beautiful. A little wild. Not normally, actually.
At times, anyway. Agassi holds on. We're on serve first set. They have traded one break of serve. It's 5 games to 6 on Agassi leading. Difficult to get a handle on this French Championships, isn't it? The top section of the draw is just like the women's field. Pretty much you expected rather to get to the last 4 got there, but the bottom section is totally different. Sellers, Sabatini, Sanchez, and Graf all made it to the semifinals of the women's singles, and they were expected to, and did. 5-6. Sampras serving to Agassi. This is the first set, best of 5 set quarter-final match at Roland Garros.
Second serve ace. That's his 5th.
A little risky. That was right on the line.
It's funny about Pete. He feels that perhaps the reason he's stressed out his shoulders that in preparation for the clay, he goes for even more on the serve, trying to make a dent in the clay court. Of course, the clay slows down a fast server like Pete. But he also says that one of the reasons he thinks his elbow hurts him and his shoulder at times is because in practice he can't serve as hard as he wants, because then he doesn't get into any practice. He doesn't get into any rallies. So the only time he really puts on the heat in his serves is in his matches, and then sometimes he overdoes it. Nice bit of touch from Andre Agassi.
30-15. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Mom, let's call Pete Sampras and ask him for practice. What are you talking about practice? You never hit the second ball when you play against him.
Agassi's coach, Bollettieri, says that he wants him to just keep continuing to go for the lines, to keep moving forward. When asked why Agassi is putting together a good French here, he said, Andre's happy. It's that simple. Nick says it's the beginning, he believes, of a big change for him because he loves the game again. And that's the most important thing.
Game point here for Pete Sampras to get into a tiebreak in the first set. He certainly hasn't backed up any, not that you'd have expected it from Andre Agassi, but even the big serve that we've been talking about, Pete Sampras, by the time he makes contact with it, he's right about on the baseline. Sampras is no slouch in the ground stroke department, make no mistake about it, but you would have to give the edge to Andre Agassi when they get into a prolonged ground stroke rally.
Si je pars partout, première manche, je décide.
Nice action from Sampras. Gets him into this tiebreaker.
First to 7 with a 2-point lead, and the first set goes to that person. Been a very mediocre year for Andre Agassi, other than winning in Atlanta the AT&T Challenge. For Pete Sampras, a much more solid year, 15-5 in tiebreaks this year, and Agassi, as you can see, 2-5.
It's important to remember with these two that they're 3-3 career. Agassi has taken the 2 matches they've fought on clay, but Sampras has won the 2 big titles when they've met, the U.S. Open in Frankfurt, the ATP Championship last year.
Which he won, and the year before, actually, Agassi beat Sampras at the ATP Finals in Frankfurt, and Agassi
in the
won
round-robin portion of it. Right.
But he went on to win it.
Right.
One mini break to Agassi in the tiebreak. And another one, 3 to Agassi, and he'll serve 2. Sampras is sidling over there to see whether he can claim a bad call, but he decides against it. Watch this again.
No, it was in all right. Agassi got a good look at it and used the angle for the winner.
S'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît.
Too much gun for Sampras to handle.
4-0, Agassi.
There's a lot of firepower on both sides here of this net. Agassi 4 points to zip in the tiebreak in the first set. He got it.
That's twice from well beyond the baseline. Sampras has come up with a brilliant cross-court backhand winner.
Even if you anticipate this shot, you're not going to be able to track it down. Watch it again. Just watch this now. Keep your eye here on Andre Agassi and see what he could have done. He's running in that direction, and he's pretty much stuck with that. But truthfully, even if he had anticipated that backhand cross-court, it was hit with such authority, so crisply, so cleanly, there was really no answer anyway. Miss hit on the returner's serve. Players will change ends. 4-2. Agassi leads. He has 1 mini break still in hand. Sampras won Philadelphia this year. He beat Amos Mansdorf in the final. Crickstein and Brad Gilbert on the way. That was, of course, indoors on a very fast court, perfectly suited to his game. In Atlanta, he got to the final. That was on green clay, and you've already talked about that. Mary lost to Andre Agassi in that final. But he beat Jimmy Connors en route. Peter Korda beat him at the Italian. Korda is still in this championship in the bottom section. We'll take on Cherkasov later.
Well, what a streaky first set this has been. Each player at times playing very well and then just walking away mentally.
6 aces.
Yeah, and now Sampras has won the last 3 points of the tiebreak.
Just able to direct really off both wings in either direction, Andre Agassi, and it's very difficult to play against that. You have to work extremely hard. Now, Sampras has got so much firepower himself that he's hardly on a string, but you really have to be fit to stay out there for any length of time with the player who hits that flat.
You got to move better than Sampras has been moving as well.
So there is the mini break point back. We're back on serve in the tiebreak. 5 games to 4 for Agassi, but Sampras will serve 2. Agassi has a good Davis Cup record, and he's played well in Davis Cup this year already, but for the rest of the year on the ATP Tour, I think he'd rather forget it. Other than the Atlanta win. We're back now, even 5-5, first set tiebreak.
5-5.
Set point Agassi on his own serve.
6-5 Agassi.
Sampras kicking himself on the other end of the court. He says in his game, I can't tell you why I make mental errors for no reason at all. He says it's a pretty confusing game I play, and I'm still trying to figure it all out. That's especially true of Sampras on red clay. His least favorite surface, but one he could surely win on. I mean, he knows that too. Really challenging the second serve. Threatening for a forehand. Another backhand winner from well off the court. Things are even again.
Another 6 points, and the players will change ends again. They're not supposed to take time off now. The grounds crew are ready to manicure this court, but they are sent off in a hurry because they don't have time.
No, they just thought that the breaker was over, Cliff. Yeah. They didn't realize that this thing was still going.
Yeah, so Brenner Rabot shrugs them off in a hurry. 6 points all, and the players have taken a little more time than they should have. Sampras going to the back there to take a racket to one of the ball's persons there.
Wait, please, wait, please.
Bruno.
Prenez place rapidement, mesdames et messieurs, s'il vous plaît. Immédiatement.
Take your place rapidly, please, ladies and
N'importe où,
gentlemen.
rapidement, s'il vous plaît. Les joueurs vous attendent.
Rapidly.
Boy, there's supposed to be 25 seconds between points. This is an NBA 25 seconds.
S'il vous plaît, un petit peu de silence. Merci.
Yeah, it's a pity that has to happen now, this delay. Okay, 6-6. Oh. Oh, that was great stuff. What an outstanding point. The best of the match so far. Both players powering the ball from the baseline. Finally, Agassi coming in on a little delicate shot, and I thought Sampras really had a good shot at the passing shot, but for the first time in that rally, he missed his forehand. Just powdering the ball to each other now. Now check this out here. I thought he was going to really hit this one for the winner as he normally does, but he gives Sampras the chance to make the passing shot. You have the feeling that Sampras was running at that ball and saying, I can't believe he's given me this opportunity. But by the time the thought was finished, the ball was wide. Set point, Agassi.
S'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît.
He got it. Unbelievable. Overhead that hit the tape and turned into a drop shot when last have you seen a smash drop shot for a winner on set point. 1-0 Agassi. Agassi has won the first set of this best-of-5-set quarterfinal match at the French Open, but he was very lucky on this. This turned into a very easy overhead. It's set point for Agassi. Now watch this carefully. This is a good shot. Sampras out of reach. Agassi comes in. Easy overhead. Shouldn't have been. But bam, he hits it. It hits the tape. And had it not hit the tape, at least Sampras might have had another shot to get to it. And of course, what's worse is it could well have just been in the net. However, it turned out for Agassi, and that look of some terror almost on his face when it was all over. Anyway, it's 1-0 Agassi, the number 11 seed. First game, second set, Sampras to serve. I don't know, Mary, now. I mean, you look at a match like this, a point like that, and it could change the complexion of the match.
Yeah, because it can become much more than just a point.
Exactly.
But again, there's still an awful lot more tennis to play. Although I'm sure Agassi's happy he was able to secure that first one. He should be able to play this second set really swinging out off his hips. Both sides.
Well, that's exactly my point. You know, he can be so explosive. Now, he's going to go check the mark as well, and he will circle it to confirm to Sampras that the ball is long. That will usually satisfy an opponent that you respect. So Sampras moves back to serve at love 30. Bill Shelton on the right, bottom right of your screen. He's Agassi's agent. Love 30. There's another side to that story of the end of the first set, and that is that Pete Sampras, you know, he has also been known to get that hangdog look about him when things don't go his way.
Yeah, but he really doesn't like that reputation.
No. And he really probably doesn't deserve it, because very often he has that hangdog look even when he's winning. Remember the U.S. Open a couple of years ago? Tim Gullickson.
It's his new coach. He signed on right at the beginning of '92. As I said, immediately Sampras was injured. An arm injury that kept him out of the Australian Open.
Tim's brother Tom is the head of the USTA Player Development Coaching Section.
Tim says of Pete, he's got the potential to be the best, but attaining greatness in this sport is basically a matter of judgment and shot selection, and that takes time. Gullickson feels that Pete's got to learn how to play the score a little bit more instead of always going for his big stuff, all his big shots.
30 all.
Again, I just don't think Sampras is moving well enough, Cliff. I think if he picked up his feet, this could be a much better looking clay court match for him. There's Gully in the black cap.
I think this is a really important game for Sampras too. He has a break point for Agassi. Both big game for both of them, of course, but Agassi just won the first set. Early break, things could go downhill. Well, we'll find out, won't we? Looked like Sampras was going to make a comeback in that game, but Agassi breaks. It's 7-6 tie break. First set Agassi. Now one game to love with the break in the second.
For a man who relies so much on his first serve, Pete Sampras is really going to have to pick up that percentage. In set one, you could see he was all the way down to 45. He had more unforced errors than winners, as you can see. The interesting thing about these numbers, again, Agassi made quite a few himself, is that when it's all said and done, Agassi had 41 points in that first set, and Sampras had 40. So things were very close in that one. But Agassi is now operating with a real psychological advantage, having won that tiebreak and getting the early break. Yeah, sometimes you win it on that last point. It's kind of a squirrely smash that goes your way, and you figure maybe it's your lucky day.
A little bit of good fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's that. I mean, that's his bread and butter. You hit an easy return of serve like that to Agassi or, say, a Jim Courier, for example, and then just need to say a little prayer because they very, very seldom miss 30 love. Well, I had a feeling this might happen after that last point of the tiebreak in the first set. And, of course, it may change, but Agassi's on a roll. Two games to love Agassi in the second set and one set to love.
You kind of want to see more fire from Pete Sampras on days like this. But he says of himself, he says, I'd kind of compare myself to Fred Couples, a great golfer who's had such a fine last year or so. Sampras says of Couples, he doesn't show much emotion. And it looks like his power is effortless power. But when I hear someone say, that Pete Sampras, so much talent and not even trying, he said, that really bothers me.
Yeah.
But the way he plays, he just kind of slouches around the court, kind of lackadaisical looking.
And as I said before, it can be whether he's winning or losing in truth about him. 15 love. Sampras walks up to the mark. Agassi circles it, and apparently Sampras satisfied with that, so he'll serve a second serve. Ooh. Nearly crept over. 30 love.
30-0.
Well, this net was very kind to Andre Agassi just a couple of games ago. That time, though, decided to stay over on his side.
2-0.
Pete Sampras has a Grand Slam championship under his belt. Of course, he won the US Open against the same Andre Agassi. Agassi's been in 3 finals, 2 here at the French Championships, but he's never won one. Great shot. Agassi, as quick as he is, didn't even start to run for that one, so Sampras is on the board in the second set. Challenge in Atlanta, but he was a finalist here in the last couple of years, and apparently he likes to play in Paris. This surface suits his game, although in truth the hard courts at the US Open are not that much worse. Anyway, it takes the brunt out of a big server to some extent, like Pete Sampras. And Agassi and Sampras are in the quarterfinals. 2 games to 1. And 1 set to love Agassi.
15-0.
Like Bollettieri in the ever-present dark glasses.
His coach for life is what Agassi said of this man here at the French. He had decided at the beginning of the year, Agassi, he was going to try something all different. Really work hard, watch his diet, which is scandalous, as our friend Jenkins of Sports Illustrated once described it. He was going to work hard. He was going to enter in a lot of tournaments. Well, and he even hired Brian Teacher, former tour player, to help him with his serve and volley game, but he has since given that all up. He said, that is just not for me. And now he's back to Nick. Back to eating a lot of McDonald's. And he has been playing better. There's no denying that. He says, I cannot be a grinder, you know, like Jim Courier. That's just not how I'm built. Still, I think he's got to, if he really wants to play with the big boys, he's got to work harder. There are too many guys around the very top of men's tennis that are putting in a lot more effort and not just relying on their talent. I mean, if talent was all it took, I've said this before, I continue to say it, if all it took was talent, Agassi would have won 3 Grand Slams by now. 2 Frenches in a US Open.
He has game point here for 3-1 second set. And that's how it is. First set, tie break. Now 3 games to 1 in the second. Crowd kind of subdued here on this dull day in Paris. Sounds like a broken record, but weather-wise it has been that way since we showed up here in Paris Monday of last week. Latter stages of this championship, quarterfinal men's singles matches. The women are already in the semifinals. This is Sampras serving, trailing with a break. Second set. That's 5 double faults. Last time they played, as we mentioned, in Atlanta, 7-5, 6-4. Agassi won that match on clay. Surface that I used to always to say played a little faster than this, but now I'm not so sure anymore. Sampras 5, Agassi 1 in the double faults area. It is
great. It is great.
Well, trouble then for Pete Sampras. What's this again?
0-30.
I had to do a lot of work. Agassi, good stretch here. Now, this one I thought Pete Sampras had made, but Agassi was able to get back and hook it back in and just on the sideline. Love 30. Love 40, so that desperate gamble, or desperate swing rather, from Agassi in the last point is really going to take its toll on Pete Sampras, with Agassi now having 3 break points in this game, already up a break in the second set and 1 set to love. Sampras saves 1. He's number 3 in the world behind Jim Courier, of course, and Stefan Edberg is number 2. Edberg out of this championship on Bloody Saturday.
That's a career high for him, being 3. Agassi had gone all the way down to 17 in the world. Still not back in the top 10.
30, 40.
One more break point. Miss hit on the return of serve, and Pete Sampras has climbed his way back into this game.
This is an absolutely crucial game for Sampras, and that's so obvious, because he's only come back from 2 sets down to win a match once, and that was here last year in the first round when he came back against Tomas Muster. But if he were to get himself down 1-4, things would not be looking good. He seems flat today. You give Agassi a 2-set lead, and I think he'll take advantage.
4th break point for Agassi in this game.
Again, Sampras pulled way beyond the baseline, trying to hit
Avantage, Agassi.
good shots from back there on slow red clay. It's just too difficult.
Sampras's body language again a little negative at this stage. Oh, what a shot from Sampras. Not your normal everyday high percentage play. Comes in and hits a volley from between the serve line and the baseline, but somehow miraculously it works and we're back at 2s. And you said it, Mary, it is a crucial game.
Yeah. He was just lucky, because that first volley he made was from the middle of the court.
Avantage Sampras.
Taking very little off that second serve, wide into the forehand side, steered long. Game point now for Sampras after 3 break points against him. Called good, and let's see, the chair umpire is, he says, wait a second, let's check this mark, and Agassi goes up, checks it, says it's long. Sampras is happy with that, so we'll see a second serve.
Sampras.
There it is, 3 games to 2, Agassi, and he won the first set. Agassi will serve, leading 3 games to 2 in the second set. 1 set under his belt already. Some umbrellas are beginning to come out again.
More rain on this court is the last thing the world Sampras needs. When he was making his way through the draw earlier in the week, without all the rain and moisture, he said this red clay court was playing the fastest of any he'd played in Europe. And again, Sampras comes up with a big winner from way beyond the baseline.
And that used not to be true, because by the time we got to the French Championships, things had slowed down after Hamburg, for example, and even Rome. But they are trying to quicken up the conditions here. And apparently, from what the players say, the officials here have succeeded in doing just that. It is playing quicker. It's helping the serve and volley players.
Lighter ball, too, they're using. The guys are using.
15 all.
Again, I think Sampras is giving away too much court. Way behind the baseline there. Have a look at the first serve percentage in sets 1 and 2. I mean, Pete's, if possible, is getting even worse in this second set. Agassi's is way up. He's just spinning him in. And it's been good enough for him. Sampras has not been attacking his serve, not really challenging it at all. Kind of spinning him back in. And once that happens, you got to like Agassi from the baseline in a rally more than Pete Sampras.
Oh. Down the line, nothing in the world that Agassi could have done, even if he'd anticipated that before Sampras made his swing.
Yeah, he just busted up this rally. Pete had no real no real business going for a winner right in the middle of this rally, but he does.
Well, the real big servers, though, they like Ivanisevic, for example, too, they have the luxury of just flailing away at the returner serve and taking really low percentage attempts from time to time, see if they can break serve, knowing that they can hold serve. That is not the situation in this match right now, though, because Sampras is already behind break. He missed it. Oh, just turning around a little bit in this match, I have the feeling at this stage, because Agassi had his chances for the second break. Now he's struggling to hold serve here. This volley goes long. So this is a chance for Sampras to change the momentum.
Agassi's doing a good job of really taking it to Pete, though. I mean, he's been into the net a couple of times in this game, forcing the issue. And for him to serve and volley, even though he blew it the last time he tried to serve for the game, nice to see.
And as you pointed out, he's just getting a lot of first balls in. He's not going for a heck of a lot. He's not interested in serving aces here. I remember when Mats Wilander did that in the final here. Got a 90% or even higher than that percentage of first serves in.
That was against Henri Lecomte,
who is still in this championship in the bottom section.
Well, Lecomte had gotten his way to the final by returning brilliantly. So Wilander just kept up the percentage. Lecomte went down in 3 very meek sets. That is called good from the baseline, but wide. So once again, Agassi has a chance for a 4-2 lead. And another serve and volley, this one just right.
Yeah,
you know, he's point there. Well, he sees that Sampras is laying so far back. If you're that far behind the baseline, there is no way that you can attack the serve and come in, as Sampras has been doing. Look how far away he is. So Agassi has a good sense to come in and take the net away from him with a nice, simple, 1-2 punch.
Close, but no breaks of serve against Agassi. In fact, in that game, they haven't been in the set. Agassi leading 4-2 and 1 set. On the line, love 15.
Isn't that something, huh? As we've been saying, Agassi's been to the net more than Pete, and he's been more successful.
Twice as many times.
You know, I think Sampras is still struggling to figure out just how to play on clay. You know, just when to attack, when to defend. He has great respect for Agassi's game. He says in Davis Cup and at the French Open, Sampras said this before this match. You know, he said, you know, you got to figure Agassi's going to be very, very focused, very concentrated, very willing to win the match, and he's right.
Love 30.
Sampras, who has struggled in Davis Cup play. Hold on, he's coming to the
Looks like another string, Mary.
Could be. Maybe some still trying to find the right tension for this match.
So
but you know, Sampras, at Davis Cup, we saw him in Sanibel. We've seen him struggle in Davis Cup play, and he is so respectful of what Agassi has been able to do as a Davis Cup player in the last year. You know, both these players have a high regard for one another, but you know, Pete knows how hard it is to play a high pressure in a high pressure situation.
It's Fabrice Santoro.
Talented Frenchman.
Played Davis Cup for France. He's watching. Okay, that was a big point again. Remember, 15-30 now. Last time that Sampras served, Agassi had 4 break points, did not convert on any of them. Now it's 15-30. Agassi again with a chance. Oh, what a shot. Agassi's going to go up and circle the mark. What's the call? And looks like Bruno Rebeu is either agreeing with Agassi or saying it was good. I think it was the latter of the two. 30 all, yes it was. Terrific shot. Big point too.
A little on the desperate side though, don't you think?
Oh yeah, but in a stage like that, these are desperate times for Pete Sampras.
Yeah, they sure are. But that he has to go for so big a shot from such a remote position on the court just shows how desperate the situation is for Sampras.
30 all. That is double fault number 6, and that one was not even close. But I'm not arguing with the game plan of hitting that second serve harder. I think it's a good one. Break point. Good. Oh. It's long, and Agassi has the second break. A beautifully played point. Well constructed, actually, by both players. Finally, Sampras edging it long. It's 5-2 Agassi.
A match that was taped earlier this morning between Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi. Let's get you back now to that match. They are in the second set, and here are Cliff and Mary.
Dreary day, fiery match though. 5-2 for Andre Agassi in the second set, and he won the first in a tiebreak. Could not have been closer, that first set. Just a point or two difference, and that was all she wrote. As for this second set, it has been mainly Andre Agassi. 5-2 and serving for it. 2 breaks.
That's really saying something, that Agassi hasn't been challenged on serve, because as we've been saying, it's not like he's going for huge serves. He's spinning them. And that's been good enough.
30.
Lost that point through lack of interest.
Yeah,
Steered it long.
Yep, I think
30 love.
that tiebreaker took a lot of the starch out of him.
Yeah, I thought that might happen.
It is beginning to rain again. That's why Stefan Franzen was just shown regarding the court. Sure, Agassi does not want a rain delay. Remember what happened here a year ago.
It's Curry,
Up
right?
2-1 against Jim Curry in the final, and a rain delay changed the whole match, the entire tenor of the match.
Set point Agassi. Making it look easy. Andre Agassi, 2-0.
And the rain is quite hard now.
Agassi mène par 2 manches.
I said Agassi was up in that match against.
Messieurs, encore un jeu pour le prochain changement de côté, s'il vous plaît.
There's Stefan Franzen in the tie, looking up, checking on this court. Jim Courier, during the rain delay last year, was advised by his coach, Jose Higueras, to step back about 10 feet in trying to return Agassi. He wasn't having much luck breaking Agassi. So Higgy said to, step back about 10 feet, have a better look at the ball, which is exactly what he did, and that was it.
Discussion now between the players and Bruno Rebeu, and as you would imagine, I don't think that Andre Agassi has any interest in leaving.
No way. And I'm sure Sampras has no real want or desire to stay on. They're going to determine, that's how they tend to check just how wet the court is. They test the lines, because if they get slippery, it becomes dangerous. This court, the court itself can take an awful lot of moisture, but the lines can become very, very slick.
Right, and it looks like the decision is going to be just to stay out there and play, because at this point the lines are not dangerous anyway. Agassi grabs himself an umbrella while all this is going on.
Ilie Nastase did that. Remember that famous shot of Ilie Nastase grabbing an umbrella during Wimbledon years ago? He's watching this match.
The rain is coming down, but play will continue. Bruno Rebeu is going to sit there just stalwart fashion in the rain, covering this match. First game, third set.
We mentioned that Sampras has only come back from 2 sets once, and after he did that against Musser last year, he lost in the very next round. He was whipped to Thierry Champion of France. Agassi has only lost twice when he's been up 2 sets. That was at Key Biscayne in 1988 to Aaron Kriegstein, a 5-set master. And in Davis Cup against Germany in '89. Remember that one against Boris Becker. What a match. Becker winning that finally 6-4 in the 5th.
That was indoors, of course, at the Olympia Halle, which is now host site for the Grand Slam Cup at the end of the year, where Pete Sampras made $2 million a couple of years ago. He said the taxmen in Germany are now talking to him about all of that dough that he made there. David Wheaton won that last year.
I'll tell you, Cliff, I don't think Agassi even wants to play out there. It's just too wet. I don't blame him.
So that is it. Play will be called for now, with Agassi leading 2-0. We're in the first game of the third set. Whistles from the crowd who'd like to see things continue. 15-all in the first game of the third set. So a respite that gained the spectators only 2 points. The players are going to go back into the locker room and wait for this shower to go away.
We are watching a match that was played earlier this morning. There was a half-hour rain delay at this point. 2 sets to love for Andre Agassi. Let's get back to the action now. There for the call, Cliff Drysdale and Mary Carrillo. Cliff?
So the players have had their 5-minute warm-up, and this is the continuation of play. About a half an hour's delay. This is Pete Sampras serving 15-all in this game. First game of the third set. Andre Agassi very much in control of the match after the first 2 sets. The first one, of course, a very close affair, but the second set was all Agassi. 40-15 game point for Sampras, who has come out quickly, firing on all cylinders here in the third.
You really have to wonder just what Pete Sampras did with that 27-minute rain delay, what he spoke about to his coach, Tim Gullickson. I mean, he's just been trying to live and die on this serve of his. I mean, if he doesn't win the point outright on his serve, he seems to have no chance. And I just don't think that makes any sense. He's just not coming to net either, and that's a surprise.
But Agassi is coming to net more often than he has. That is a big surprise. 1 game to love, Sampras, third set. We'll be back. Court Central, the 1992 French Open. This is a quarterfinal match. The men's singles. Andre Agassi has 2 sets, and he's down 1 game to love in the third. The question is, what kind of an attitude will both of these players have, but more particularly Pete Sampras? He's the one who needs to change things.
He's got to try to break Agassi's serve. I mean, he's just, you know, he's staying way back there. He's just rolling the returns back in. I really think he should try chipping and charging.
$30 love.
He must try to put some kind of pressure on Agassi, and he's not doing it from the back court. It's Agassi who gets to choose when to go for his winners so far in this match. At least if Pete were to come into net, then Pete would be choosing when Andre had to go for his winners.
Sella, Sabatini, Graf, and Sanchez Vicario tomorrow semifinals of the women's.
Well, it's exactly a year ago when the very same matchups occurred here at Stade Roland Garros.
Celis Sanchez Vicario final, won by Celis, who has not lost a Grand Slam tournament in so long. 40-15. .30 game point. Agassi. A little bit of help from the net. Deuce. Second game. And Mary, as you watch this match, you know that Stefan Edberg comes to mind because he used to walk around with that hangdog look a lot in the early stages of his career, and he has changed that now. And finish the thought after this. You see the same kind of thing from Pete Sampras, and no matter how he feels, it sends a message to the guy that he's playing against, you know, that he really feels bad about his chances, and something that Pete Sampras should learn from, I think. Game point. Agassi holds on, even in the third set, 2 sets to love for the man who played in the final of the French Open last year.
Cliff, we mentioned that Andre Agassi has had such great Davis Cup success in the last year. When these guys play together, because Pete has represented the U.S. team now the last 3 times, the team tries to get Sampras going. They really do. I know that the whole team was very aware on changeovers and after good Sampras shots. You know, they tried to cheer for him and say, come on, Pete, keep going, because Davis Cup is an emotional experience. You have to be able to use your emotions, you know, to your advantage and as a weapon.
0-15.
Andre Agassi, as you mentioned, he's really responded to the Davis Cup call. Has an excellent Davis Cup record. Playing doubles here with his Davis Cup teammate, John McEnroe. Called long.
Actually, John McEnroe had asked Pete to play doubles, but Pete wanted to concentrate here on his singles. He's trying to find a, you know, I know in the back of his head, McEnroe's thinking of trying to get a good Davis Cup partner. He and Rick Leach played too similar a style, I think. The tie against Czechoslovakia where they weren't successful. John needs a power partner, and surely Pete is that, although this guy's got all kinds of power. He could actually be a pretty good doubles player if he put his mind to it. And McEnroe was a little surprised that Agassi even agreed to play doubles. They've won a couple of rounds.
That is wide, and Andre Agassi has 3 break points. Early stages of the third set, leading 2 sets to love. Quarterfinal here, and the winner will take on the winner of the Jim Courier match.
I just think that Sampras should be trying to spin his serves in and get to the net, make Agassi hit a return, make Agassi hit a passing shot. By just trying to serve outright winners on a slow clay court of all things is not, I'm just not convinced that's a great idea, especially against Agassi's return. And he has been striking the ball so cleanly.
Rather tame effort there from Pete Sampras, former US Open champ, and Andre Agassi has got the first break of the third set. He leads it 2-1 and 2 sets to love. This is Court Central at Roland Garros, just very close to the center of the city of Paris, which is, in the springtime especially, one of the most beautiful places in the world. The weather has not cooperated with this championship, though. It is another sultry day here at Roland Garros, very close to the Bois de Boulogne, in fact, just across the street from it. Andre Agassi, though, could care less about all of that. He leads 2 sets to love and 2-1 with a break in the third, and he has just served an ace. Thirty love. It looks pretty inevitable now. Go back to the first set tiebreak, and that is what really turned this match around. It was so close. In fact, the whole first set was just so close. Won by Agassi. Since then, it's been all Agassi.
Yeah, one-set match, really.
Easy game for Agassi. Three games to 1. Sampras has not looked like really making
Sampras.
any. Really.
It will be interesting to see how different this guy looks in a few weeks' time on the grass of Wimbledon. He's played it a couple times. He's not yet done well there, which is kind of surprising considering that his game is better suited to grass. He says that his big problem at Wimbledon is that he just doesn't feel like he returns well there. I don't think he trusts the blades. And he's never yet felt comfortable when he's not got the ball in his hands. So I'm sure it's something he'll be working on. He could use it. He could use maybe better returning skills in this one too.
I think he's going to do well at Wimbledon. The problem
this year.
Yeah, I do. But the problem that he has is that he's got so much opposition in terms of just serve power now with Richard Krajcik, for example, and so many guys who serve well. Michael Stich, another one, Edberg, Becker. He's got a big serve, but he's not alone in that department.
Yeah, that's why I think he knows he's got to have a better return game. Andre Agassi's doubles partner.
Yeah. Played doubles later today, in fact.
He shaved. That's kind of nice. McEnroe's been wandering around with some sort of a beard. But I guess he woke up this morning and changed his mind about it.
Game point, Sampras. Well, it's a very lackadaisical looking display at this point from Pete Sampras.
Boy, I expected a lot more from this match. Sampras came into this match having just finished the day before playing the best clay court match of his whole life, he said, over Carl Stieb. But he's brought none of that to this court.
Charlie Stieb afterwards said that if he serves for the rest of the tournament like he served against him, that he'd win the tournament.
Yeah, but he's pressing too much on serve against Agassi. And he's just not getting enough of them in. He's not getting enough of anything in. He's been playing with his strings. You know, he's busted a couple of them in this match. He seems not to be comfortable yet. In what could be the final moments of this match, he still is wondering how tight his string should be.
Coming into this tournament, he had never put in more practice on a clay court or played more matches.
Got to the quarters of the Italian.
Mm-hmm. Now he will go apparently to the sidelines and change a racket. I don't think he broke a string. He's just concerned about the tension in the frames. That's what he thinks about that one.
And Pete said before this match, if I'm not serving well, it's going to be a long day. Well, he's not serving well, and it could be a very short day. He said, you know, clay quarters, you know, hitting 20, 30 balls in a rally to win a point. He said, I'm not a grinder. He said, I'm not a grinder. Jim Courier is.
Agassi, meanwhile, means to keep him out there for as short a time as possible as well. Watch this returner serve. Clean winner of the forehand. So it's deuce again, 3 games to 1 Agassi and 2 sets to love. Well, the casual swing that time at the backhand side from Pete Sampras, and Agassi has a point here for a second break in the 3rd set. That is wide, so that's a double break for Andre Agassi, and that is probably all he's going to need in this match. 2 sets to love and 4 games to 1 now, and he'll serve after we take this break.
Agassi mène par 4 jeux.
Court Central, and Andre Agassi is very much in control of this match with 2 breaks here in the 3rd set, and he won the first 2 sets easily. There has already been 1 rain delay here in this singles match of just about a half an hour, but the players are back, and Andre Agassi has dominated since the break.
That's a big surprise to me, Cliff. I expected that after the break, after Sampras was able to speak with his coach, Tim Gullickson, that you'd see a visible difference from him. You know, you'd actually see maybe his better footwork or a different way to try to attack serve or spinning more serves in. I've seen no discernible difference. It's like he's just trying to do what has not been working for 2.5 sets.
Add to that the fact that he doesn't look like he has a great deal of interest, or as my good friend Roy Emerson would say, he's losing this match because of lack of interest. That he really needs to look at least like he's giving it everything.
He's had 13 unforced errors in this set to Agassi's 4. Had another clean winner from Andre. Swept the line clean.
Although to be fair to Pete, I mean, even when he won the U.S. Open, he looked pretty lackadaisical too. Stroll in the park for Andre Agassi in this match, as it's turned out here in the 3rd set anyway. Very competitive first set, but since then 6-2 and now 5 games to 1 for last year's French Open finalist. In fact, he has played the finals here the last 2 times.
Silence, s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît. 0-45.
Obviously a Pete Sampras fan.
Stephanie Berg lookalike almost. Well, he's just throwing caution to the winds now, and this is the time to do it for Agassi. In his mind, he is very close to the locker room. Love 32 points from the match. Agassi trying to get to his 3rd straight semi-final here at the French Championships. Important tournament for him because this was the most successful tournament for him last year in terms of ATP Tour computer points. So he needs to do well here just to stay even. Deuce.
It's a lucky hat he's got on. He and John McEnroe in doubles won their first round doubles match. He was wearing a cap, so he decided he'd keep it around. Jim Courier took a lucky hat 7 rounds here last year.
No signage allowed on hats in tennis, other than the ATP Tour insignia. And the Grand Slams don't allow that. This is game point for Pete Sampras, trying to win his 2nd game in the 3rd set.
Avantage Sampras.
Hit too few of those today. They just don't. He's made some brilliant shots, Sampras, but they haven't added up to much.
And Agassi, on the other hand, has kept the pressure on. He has just played very well from the baseline. I think Volaterri watching with some pleasure, of course. Resignation in that swing and to some extent in that face as Andre Agassi has match point.
Avantage Agassi, s'il vous plaît. Set match Agassi.
So Agassi, as they call him here in Paris, is through, and he's a semi-finalist. Very disappointing effort, I suppose, from his opponent Pete Sampras, at least in the third set anyway.
Yeah, it really was just not a whole lot. It doesn't seem like, you know, Pete gave himself much of a chance at all after he lost that first set tiebreak. But all due credit for Agassi. I mean, Andre has not had a good 1992 except for one tournament victory, and now he's playing real semifinal ball. And that was a good. He made his share of errors in that match, but not too many at all. I mean, he's playing really good-looking tennis.
Suppose you could say that Andre Agassi's had a good draw in this championship, and indeed he has. Nevertheless, he has taken advantage of it, and that's the key. So he's in the semi-final again of the French Championship with a chance to go all the way here in Paris. We'll be back.